Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are cracking open 3 ancient sources that give us this really fascinating roadmap for surviving a crisis.
It is. And it's a study in extremes, really.
Yeah, you have this immediate catastrophic failure on one side,
Yeah.
and then this quiet, radical power of long-term perseverance on the other.
Exactly. Our mission today is to zoom in on those two fundamentally different kinds of crises these sources lay out for us.
So we start with what? The big dramatic collapse.
We do. The arrogance of power just hitting a brick wall. We see that in the book of Daniel. And then we pivot to the long, slow burn resilience required for systematic hardship.
The kind warned about in the Gospel of Luke.
That's the one. And what's so amazing is that whether the test is fast or slow, the answer is always the same. Wisdom and this unwavering steadiness.
And that combination of sources is what makes this so potent. You go from a high-stakes thriller about a king's ego to this urgent, decades-long warning about betrayal and persecution. It really makes you ask, what truly secures your life? Is it physical power, or is it something internal?
A great question.
So let's start with the high drama. We're in Daniel chapter 5, in a scene that has given us that famous saying, the writing on the wall. It all kicks off during this massive, lavish banquet. King Belshazzar is hosting 1,000 of his lords. You have to just picture the scene.
Oh, yeah. Immense wealth, reckless drinking, and that kind of celebratory arrogance that comes when you think you're totally untouchable.
But this wasn't just a party, was it? It was something more.
It was a statement, a calculated, profane statement. Belshazzar, fueled by wine, orders that the sacred gold and silver vessels be brought out.
The ones stolen from the temple in Jerusalem.
The very ones. And he, his guests, his wives, his entertainers, they all start drinking from them.
Wow.
And while they're doing this, they're not just drinking. They are actively praising their false, lifeless gods.
Yeah.
Idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone.
So it's a conscious snub. It's intentional.
It's a direct snub to anything higher than their own fleeting power.
And here is where it all goes wrong. They're deep into this profane toast, and suddenly, the whole atmosphere just changes.
It really does. Opposite the main lampstand, the fingers of a human hand just appear.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. And they start writing on the plaster of the wall.
The king's reaction is, it's the physical proof of what fear does when that kind of pride just shatters.
Exactly. The text doesn't just say he got scared. It's so much more visceral. It says his face blanched. His thoughts terrified him.
It was physical, right?
Oh, absolutely. It says his hip joints shook and his knees actually knocked together. That's the moment when all the external symbols of power, the gold, the 1,000 lords, they just fail him. He's reduced to a shaking man.
He's recognizing that there's an accountability that is way bigger than his army.
Way bigger. A powerful picture of fear.
So after the immediate panic, the king, desperate for a translator, sends for Daniel.
Right. The Jewish exile. He's known to have not just knowledge, but this extraordinary wisdom, and more importantly, that the Spirit of God is in him.
And the king is so frantic, he offers Daniel these massive rewards. Purple robes, a gold chain.
And to be third in command.
A huge offer.
And Daniel's entrance is, it's the ultimate mic drop, really. He just refuses the bribes immediately.
He basically says, keep your gifts, I'll read the writing anyway.
Exactly. And his rebuke is what matters most here. He reminds Belshazzar that he knew the story of his predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar.
Who was humbled by God.
Yes. And yet Belshazzar chose to rebel against the Lord of Heaven anyway.
So the core offense wasn't just, bad manners or using the wrong cups.
No. It was the active, willful choice to glorify material things and ignore the actual source of his life. Daniel boils it down to a single sentence.
What's it?
Belshazzar failed to glorify the God in whose hand is your life breath and the whole course of your life. He chose to worship the created, the gold, the stone, instead of the creator.
A total failure of accountability.
A fundamental failure.
Okay, so let's unpack the verdict itself. This is really where we get the idea of organizational accountability. The hand wrote 3 words: men, tikal, and peers.
And these 3 words, they aren't poetry. They are swift, brutal, and concise. It's like an ancient performance review that ends in immediate termination.
Okay, so what's the first one? Men.
Me. This meant God has numbered your kingdom and put an end to it. Simple as that. Your time is up.
And the second? Tikal. This one feels like the heart of it.
It is. Tikal. You have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. This is about quality, not just quantity. Your character, your leadership, it just didn't measure up.
You failed the audit.
You failed the audit badly. And finally, Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. The judgment is executed immediately.
Sudden, catastrophic institutional failure rooted in arrogance.
The very definition of it.
What's so fascinating is how we now take that idea of instant, terrifying judgment and transition to a completely different timeline.
Yes, a completely different timeline of suffering.
We move to the warning Jesus gives the crowd in Luke 21. It's not a crisis of minutes, but a long-term, painful reality of persecution.
And this transition is crucial. It gives you two models for crisis. Belshazzar's arrogance earned a swift end. Jesus is preparing his followers for a path of endurance that might last a lifetime.
What does he warn them about, specifically?
He says, they will seize and persecute you, they will hand you over to the synagogues and to prisons, and he says they'll be led before kings and governors.
All because of his name.
Exactly, all because of his name. But the text makes it clear this isn't meaningless suffering, it has a purpose.
Which is to give testimony. The crisis itself becomes the stage.
It becomes the stage for demonstrating your faith. And what's so wild here is the strategy for survival he gives them.
It's completely counterintuitive.
It is. He tells them, remember, you are not to prepare your defense beforehand. Every human instinct screens to plan to get your story straight.
But he says not to.
He promises to override human preparation with divine wisdom. He says he will provide a wisdom in speaking that all your adversaries will be powerless to resist or refute.
So the courage and the arguments you need will just be there.
They'll be supplied in the exact moment you need them.
But let's be honest about the cost here. The text doesn't sugarcoat this at all. The betrayal it predicts is just shockingly intimate.
It is. People will be handed over by their own parents, brothers, relatives, friends. Some will even be put to death.
They will be hated by all because of my name. I mean, that is the maximum price.
The emotional and physical toll is immense. And yet, this is where the paradox becomes the central insight.
Okay.
Because Jesus follows that terrifying prediction with the promise, not a hair on your head will be destroyed.
So how does that work? How do we reconcile betrayal and death with total security? If some will die, how can they be totally secure?
It means the security he's promising isn't necessarily physical, it's eternal. The passage clarifies this right away. It says the ultimate securing of life, the life that truly matters, the one that withstands the scales of judgment, is achieved by your perseverance.
Not by fighting back.
No, by enduring. That slow, painful, daily act of enduring becomes the pathway to security. It's the complete opposite of Belshazzar's path of instant gratification.
That is the essential contrast, isn't it? Belshazzar lost everything because he failed to acknowledge the source of life.
And here, the followers of Jesus secure their lives by demonstrating ultimate faith in that same source, even when it costs them everything.
Absolutely. So when you connect the fast collapse and the slow endurance, the core theme that emerges is what?
That trials are inevitable. Whether it's through instant judgment or prolonged persecution, they are guaranteed. But divine wisdom and perseverance are the only reliable pathways to true security.
We see this so clearly in Psalm 27, right? The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?
Exactly. If your trust is truly anchored there, the external threats, they start to lose their ability to terrorize you.
And this anchoring, it requires a lot of courage. One of the supporting texts reminds us there's a reward for this. It says, remain faithful until death.
And you will receive the crown of life. It completely shifts your focus from the immediate pain to the enduring prize.
Yeah, it gives you perspective.
And if you find yourself struggling with the scale of your own, maybe smaller trials, the sources invite you to step back and look at the cosmic picture.
You mean the responsorial psalm?
I do. It grounds you in universal praise. It calls on every single part of creation, the sun, the moon, the stars, the winds, the fire, the cold, to glorify the Lord.
I find that so stabilizing. The idea that if the entire massive cosmos is operating in perpetual order, then my brief, painful moment is just a small part of a much larger, incredibly stable reality.
It shrinks your fear.
It really does.
It provides the bedrock for courage. If your trust is in the one who orchestrates the sun and the moon, then fear can't paralyze you. Hope becomes your default setting.
And you have that promise from Luke. You don't have to manufacture that courage on your own.
You don't. The Spirit is guaranteed to provide the precise wisdom and strength you need in the exact moment you need it. It's like an on-demand resource for endurance.
So, to synthesize our deep dive today, we looked at the swift, terrifying collapse of King Belshazzar, a lesson in arrogance and a catastrophic failure of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Then we looked at the promise of long-term, painful endurance for the followers of Jesus, emphasizing that internal wisdom and perseverance are what secure the life that truly matters.
And we anchored both of those extremes in that broader reality of universal stability and the promise of a life that endures. These sources aren't about passive belief.
No, they're a direct call for an active demonstration of trust, especially when you're under pressure.
Exactly.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listener. It's easy to focus on the big, dramatic, wall-riding moments of crisis. But the real challenge is so often found in the small things.
It always is.
So what quiet act of perseverance can you choose today? Maybe in a difficult meeting or a tough conversation, or just resisting that temptation to quit. How can you demonstrate that your fundamental trust remains rooted?
That's where the real securing of life begins.
And maybe consider the two fates we analyzed. You have Belshazzar, who shook with terror when his life was measured, and found wanting on the scales Tekel.
Versus the person whose life is secured not through fleeting power, but by quiet, daily, radical persistence through suffering. Which measure of life are you building toward?
That's the question to carry with you. Until our next deep dive.